collaboration with Addis Media Network. This is English for grade 6. Hello, students. How have you been? How was your week last week? I'm sure you had a great time, right? Good. So, what was our last topic? Yes? It was about conditional sentence type 2. Wonderful. Conditional sentence type 2. Conditional sentence type 2. All right. Or, as I told you, I want you to remember by saying imaginary condition or unlikely condition. Unlikely condition. Okay? It is unlikely. It is what? Imaginary. It totally begins and ends in the mind of the speaker. Yes? Why do we call it unlikely? Because it is what? A little bit farther than the truth. Like, for example, if somebody says, if I were you, look at this. If I were you. Look, now it's me, your teacher, Miss Sanait. Yes? Can I be you? Can I be a student? No, I can't. Yes? So that's why we call it what? Imaginary or unlikely. You see, if I were you, what would you do? Let's say, for example, if I were you, I would go to the clinic. Maybe this time you are speaking to someone who is sick, yeah? But you cannot or you never be that person. So what do you say? If I were you, I would go to the clinic. Or the usual, there is also a usual example that everybody knows. Like, for example, when I was a student, I know this example. We all say what? If I were a bird, yeah? If I were a bird. Then what would you do? I could fly or I would fly. I could or would fly. Yes? If I were a bird, I would or I could fly. Or just now, at this level, yeah, some of you might fantasize by saying, if I were rich. Or you might say, if I won a lottery. Now look, this is what? Imagination, right? If I won a lottery, I would buy a house to my parents. This is also another way of expressing or using the conditional sentence type 2. How is that? If I won a lottery, I would buy a house. But this time I want to remind you something. We don't always begin with the if clause. We can also start our sentence using the main clause. Like, for example, look at this. I would buy a house to my parents if I won a lottery. You see? I would buy a house if I won a lottery. And then finally, let's remember the form of conditional sentence type 2. Yes? We have what? If clause, if, plus, then, as usual, after the if clause, there is what? A sentence, a subject. Yes? Good. Subject. Okay. What tense do we use in the if clause? Look, if I were you, if I were a bird, if I won a lottery. These are what? Verb 2, which means simple past. So, if plus subject plus verb 2, this is our if clause. Then, our main clause becomes what? Let's go see. I would. I could. You see? I would again. So what do we have? We have the conditional, which is subject plus, yes, would, should, could, or sometimes you may say might. Then plus, let us see the verb here, go, fly, and here, buy. So we have the base verb, or what we call verb 1. This is the form of conditional sentence, type 2, which is imaginary condition or unlikely condition. That was what we have seen last time. And today we're going to learn a new topic, a new one. Are you ready? Wonderful. Okay. So our today's topic is comparative adverbs. Have you ever heard about adverbs? Okay, we will start with that. Okay, we see what adverbs are, and then we go to the comparative adverbs. After this lesson, dear students, you will be able to identify adverbs, and you can simply use adverbs to compare, how activities have done. All right? So are you ready? Wonderful. Follow me. Let's begin by saying adverbs. What are adverbs? Adverbs are one of the parts of speech. Yes? Adverbs are one of the parts of speech, but they help us to modify, all right, or to describe, yes, to describe verbs, how an action is done, when it is done, where it is done, all right? And it also helps us to modify adjectives and at last, it also helps us to tell the degree of another adverb. Okay? This is what we call an adverb. An adverb is what? It is a word, just like any other words. An adverb is a word. But its task is, 1, to give more information or to clarify about verbs or action. Okay? And the other one, it gives additional information about adjectives. We see that in example. And another adverb. Okay? What do we mean it modifies verbs? It modifies verbs by telling us, 1, look, how an action is made. 1, how. How does it made? Like, for example, you can say, he drives carefully. Look at this sentence. He drives carefully. How does he drive? Carefully. Wonderful. He drives what? Carefully. What do we answer? The question, how? And another one. When. When an action happens. All right? Look, you can say, he drives, or you can say, he always drives carefully. This time, the word always here, it tells us the repetition of the action plus the time. Every time he drives, which means always means totally 100%, right? So he drives carefully. And it also tells us why. Why does he drive carefully? The purpose, right? He drives carefully to arrive safely. You see? He drives carefully. How, when, why, right? Yes? Let's classify them by saying the adverbs of manner. They tell us how an action has happened. Adverbs of frequency. They tell you the repetition of the action, how often an action happens. Adverbs of time. They can tell you the time of happening, right? And adverbs of degree. These are the adverbs of degree that can help you modify another adverb. Like, for example, this one is an adverb, right? He drives carefully. How carefully? Like, for example, you may say what? He drives He drives very carefully. This time I add something to the sentence. What is that? Very. You see? How carefully? Very carefully. Very is an adverb modifying another adverb. Okay? Or you can say she is absolutely beautiful. She is absolutely beautiful. I'm talking about you. Yeah, she is absolutely beautiful. We said she is beautiful. Who is beautiful? The girl. This one is an adjective. It is telling us about the girl. She is beautiful, right? How beautiful? Absolutely beautiful. You see? We are also telling us the degree of her beauty, how beautiful she is, right? So this time we are what? Modifying an adjective. Over there, we were modifying another adverb, yes? On the first one, we were what? Modifying the verb, how a person drives. So these are the words that we call what? Adverbs. This is just to give you an introduction about adverbs, but today we're going to see comparative adverbs. How do we compare using adverbs? Comparative adverbs. Let me ask you one question, just a single question. Look at this. Who runs fast? Who runs fast? A cheetah or a horse? Yeah? Who runs fast? A cheetah or a horse? Who runs fast? You know what a cheetah is, yeah? The one that looks like a tiger. Yes? Yes, the fastest runner of all animals. Yeah? So let's compare this. Who runs fast? A cheetah or a horse? This time, be careful. We are not comparing cheetah and a horse. We are comparing how fast they go. We are comparing what? The action that they do. So let me give you a few seconds and ask your parents, your teacher, mentors, or people around you. Who runs fast? A cheetah or a horse? Let me give you like 30 seconds. Okay, I'm sure you come up with an answer, yeah? What do you say? Yes, it is what? A cheetah. I even said first what? The fastest of all animals, right? Yes. So how do we tell that? How do we tell that? We tell it like this. A cheetah runs faster than a horse. You see? This is how it goes. A cheetah runs faster than a horse. Again, be careful. We are not talking about cheetah and horse. We are talking about how fast these two animals run. How fast they do the action. Okay? Good. We are comparing how they do the action. All right? If you are comparing cheetah and horse, you don't use adverbs. You use what? Adjectives, since we are talking about animals. Yes? But this time, it is what? How they do the action run. So how do we say? A cheetah runs faster than a horse. You see? There are also some adverbs that can help you to compare. But we classify these adverbs into three. One, those adverbs with short syllable, or the ones that you say them with one breath, okay? The other one, those adverbs that have ly at the end. And third, irregular adverbs. Let me give you a short table to classify these adverbs, and we use them in a sentence, okay? Good, let us do it. Let's have a table here. Adverbs on the first line, okay? Then comparative, on the second column, and superlative on the third column. Okay, when it comes to the type of adverbs, these ones are the regular ones, regular adverbs, regular, or what we call short. When I say short, I am counting the syllable, okay? I am talking about the syllable. Okay, like example, fast. Fast. How do we use it? Faster. And the superlative form, fastest. Another, hard, harder, and hardest. Heavy, heavy, heavier, heavier, and heaviest. All right. Or you can also use light, lighter, and lightest. It is the opposite of heavy, okay? Early, early, earlier, and earliest. These are some of the common examples from the regular adverbs, okay? The regular adverbs, the short ones that add ER, IER, or on their superlative form, EST and IEST when it comes to Y, all right? Let's go to the second ones. The second ones are adverbs that end by ly, a suffix ly. Like for example, look, beautiful is an adjective, yes? Beautiful. Then it become what? Beautifully. Beautifully. Careful, carefully. This is careful, and then you add ly, carefully. Slow, slowly. Another, quick, quickly. Quickly, yes? And neat, neatly. How do we use this in the case of comparative degree? Now we are talking about comparative adverbs in this column. So we add more for these ones, which means, look, how do we say? More beautifully. more beautifully, yes, more carefully, more carefully, yeah, more slowly, and so on. How about in the case of superlative? We use, instead of more, we use what? Most. So let's do it. Most beautifully. Again, most carefully. Most slowly. Most quickly, etc. These are the second type, which is adverbs that add what? ly at the end. So for these adverbs, since we are having more than one syllable, we add what? More and most to compare them, all right? And the third type are the irregular ones. Irregular means those who doesn't follow the rule, okay? Irregular adjectives, adverbs, irregular adverbs. These irregular adverbs are those adverbs that totally change their form, okay? They don't add er or ier in the case of comparative. They don't add est or iest in the case of superlative. Or they don't even come up with more and most. But they totally change what? Their structure. Like, for example, let us see this. Well or good, we say better. Right? And in the case of superlative, best. Let's see another one. Little, for little, yes, less. Superlative, least. Badly, yeah, badly, it is an adverb, bad is an adjective. Then, how do we say for that? Worse. And worst. And for far, we say what? Farther, far, farther, or farther, this one, fu. And superlative, farthest. Here we go. These are the three classifications of adverbs. The first one, regular or the short adverbs that come up with a single syllable. Example, fast, hard, heavy, light, early. These ones, they goes up with er and ier for those that end with y. Yes? And superlative, fastest, hardest, heaviest, lightest, and earliest. And the second category or the second type of adverbs, they are adverbs that end by ly, which means having more than one syllable. Those adverbs, they add what? More before the adverb, and it is in the case of comparative. In the case of superlative, we add what? Most. The third group or the third category, irregular adverbs. These irregular adverbs, they don't follow the rule. Instead, they totally change their structure, right? As you can see here, well becomes what? Better. Totally different, a different word, right? Yes. Little, less. Badly, worse. Far, farther. You see? And in the case of superlative, for well, it become what? Best. For little, it become least. And for badly, worst. And for far, farthest. These are the three categories. Now let us see some examples based on these three. All right? On the first one, let us use these words, heavy. All right? Heavy. For example, I give you this short information. Short information. Here on the first column, there is Abel. All right? And on the second column, there is Said. Or let's make it Sada. And on the third column, we have Tofik. Okay? Tofik. Let us see their weight. Okay? Their weight here. Abel weighs, look, 40 kilogram. All right? And Saada weighs, Saada weighs 42 kilogram. And Tofik weighs 38 kilogram. All right? Now this time, we're going to use their weight, how they weigh, okay? And compare them. Let's do it. Let's compare Abel and Saada first. Let's compare Abel and Saada first. All right? You can say, who is heavier than these two? Or whose weight is heavy between Saada and Abel? It is Saada. Yes? It is what? Saada. Okay. How do we do it? Saada weighs, yes? Heavier. Good. Heavier. Here is the word heavy here, and we make it heavier. Heavier than who? Abel. So here is the first one. Saada weighs heavier than Abel. Now we are using their kilograms, right? Okay. Then the adverb here is what? Heavier. Saada weighs heavier than Abel, right? Okay. How about you compare Abel with Tofik? Let me give you, use this structure, same structure, all right? And the same adverb. Let me give you 2 minutes to compare Abel with Tofik. So, 2 minutes is over. How do you say? I am sure you said what? Abel weighs heavier than Tofik, right? Good. Abel weighs heavier than Tofik. Wonderful. Now, let us use, all right? Let us compare Saada with Tofik now. This time, Saada with Tofik. Let's do it together. Yes, Saada, 42 kilogram, and Tofik, 38 kilogram. Yes? So, who weighs heavier? Yes, it is what? Saada. You can say Saada weighs, yeah? Saada weighs heavier than Tofik. Okay, Saada weighs heavier than Tofik. Now look, who weighs the heaviest? This time, I am not talking about two individuals. I am talking about the three of them. Yes? Who weighs the heaviest? Is it Abel, Saada, or Tofik? Yes? Yes? Yeah, it is what? Saada. This time, we are comparing Saada with Abel and Tofik, more than one. So which one do we use? Do we use this comparative or superlative? We use the superlative one. So how do we say? Yeah? Saada weighs the heaviest of the two, or the three, sorry, including her, right? Saada weighs the heaviest of the three, her and the rest two, right? So we use what? The heaviest this time. It is superlative adverb. It is superlative adverb. So, are we good so far? I am sure we are. So let me give you another activity with an information like that one. Okay? Let's practice it one more. Okay. Here is my information again in a table. Here, students or the people. Students. Then, how fast or how high they jump. How high they jump. Okay? All right. Let's come here. In the case of Thomas jumps 30 meters. 30 meters high, okay? And Aster jumps 31 meters, all right? And another one, our third friend here, he jumps, it is Muse. Then Muse jumps 28 meters high. Now, I give you 3 minutes, okay? 3 minutes, and tell me who jumps higher. Who jumps higher? First, compare Thomas with Aster. Second, Aster with Muse? At last, who jumps the highest? For these 3 questions, I give you 3 minutes. All right, here we go. The first one, who jumps higher? We're comparing Thomas with Aster. What do we say? Thomas jumps 30 meters, right? And in the case of Aster, it is what? 31 meters. So, who jumps higher? It is Aster, right? So how do we say? Aster jumps higher than, yes, higher than Thomas. Good. Let us see the second one, Aster with Muse. This time you're comparing these two. So we said that Aster, 31 meters, and Muse, 28 meters. So, again, it is Aster. Good. Aster jumps higher than Muse. Okay. The third one, who jumps the highest? Who jumps the highest? Now we are asked to compare 3 of them. It is Aster. Very good. Aster jumps the highest. The highest her friends. Here we go. This is how we compare how people do activities using adverbs. How to compare, right? So we use what? The comparative adverbs and the superlative adverbs. Now on my activities, I gave you only the regular ones, right? But on my homework, okay? Look, this is your homework. Homework.